Coach, your 13 personnel packages last week, and especially in the second half, worked pretty well against Seattle. Can you talk about, if you don't mind, the blocking of your tight ends, and maybe in particular Evan Ingram, a guy who's been much maligned for his blocking?
You know, we like to use different personnel groups, and, week to week, we might use one personnel group more than another. 13 has been a pretty good one for us all year long, both running it and throwing it, and really probably has a lot to do with how much confidence we have in those tight ends. You talk about Evan, you talk about Caden and Levine. Those guys are really good football players. They're good blockers. When we throw to them in the passing game, typically they come through with us. And you can get in some different formations, with that big personnel group that can cause some problems for the defense. In the game the other day, it was about running the football. And we tried to attack them a few different ways from those big personnel groups. And it's one thing to try to put a player or a unit into a position where you can have some success. It's a whole other thing to go block those guys like those guys did. And, really throughout the ball game, I thought they did a really good job capturing the edge for us, coming off the ball, hitting them in the mouth, and then sustaining those drives, those blocks that allowed us to drive the ball as well as we did running it. So they did a really good job in the ball game. Really believe in those guys.
Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you kind of a follow-up on what Chris asked you. Watching the power football that you guys played in the second half on Sunday is kind of fun. What does it mean to an offense and to a team, when you can line up that way in those big packages, in those power packages, and more or less just kind of run the ball down a team's throat?
Well, it's a challenge to run the ball in the NFL. It really is from any personnel grouping. Defenses do such a good job from a scheme standpoint and from a talent standpoint, stopping the run. And so it's a challenge for us. It's something we believe in. We believe in it very strongly to be balanced and attack different ways. We've run the ball a lot better here the last 6 or 7 weeks. And I think that's helped our team. It's helped our offense. The residual effect to your pass protection and your passing game, I think, can be a positive one. And then really throughout the team as well. Instilling that mentality of toughness. Time of possession is a big part of it. So you're always trying to do whatever you can do to help the team win. And I think running the football allows you to do that.
Kevin?
Jason, you talked about the running game, but one of the things I've noticed is when you run that well, generally it opens it up for the passing game. And I was wondering, is that to come? I mean, because I haven't seen that many deep passes so far.
Yeah, I thought we had some good opportunities in the second half. We didn't throw it a lot, but I do think running the ball created some good opportunities for us. Down in the red zone, the touchdown pass that Colt threw to Alfred, I think was a result of them really trying to defend the run. Some of the other play action stuff we used throughout the game, I thought really was a result of them committing people to the line of scrimmage to defend the run. So it does work together, and there can be different kind of throws you can make, off of play action. Sometimes it's shots down the field like you suggested. Seattle typically plays way out of there with their outside guys. That's kind of the DNA of their defense. If you can picture Richard Sherman and those guys through the years playing high and deep on long throws, they've done a great job of that. So you have to beat them more with some intermediate stuff, and we're able to do that a couple times in the game. But really what we tried to do in that game is to run the football and run it effectively, and as that game wore on, we did a good job of that.
Thank you.
Patty?
Hey, Jason, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Jason, I was curious about the run game, just to follow up on something. Do you mix and match your offensive line personnel groupings according to running back these days? Does that allow you to do that, and is there any benefit to doing that?
Mix the offensive lineman regarding what? I'm sorry.
The running back, whichever running back you're looking to that you have in there. So if you have Alfred in there, you have one set that you look for versus Wayne versus Dion.
It's a really good question, but we actually don't really do that. We try to rotate the running backs around. Obviously, Wayne has gotten the bulk of the work, but Alfred's done a really good job coming in his role, as has Dion. Those guys are playing some different roles for us. Wayne has done a really good job kind of carrying the load, and those other guys have been great complementary players. To give him a blow, but also, in different situations we've used them. In regards to how that pairs up with the offensive line rotation, we haven't necessarily tied that together. Sometimes you'll play guys by series, how many plays they get, and sometimes the linemen and and the running back substitution will overlap in some way, but there's no defined plan to do that.
Thank you.
We'll take three more. Pat Leonard.
Hey, Jason. So in the third quarter, for 2 straight drives, you guys pound the ball on the ground with the same offensive line group, and you score on both drives. You guys come out early fourth quarter with a different offensive line and go 3 and out. I'm curious, I know you guys are rotating these offensive linemen to develop them and get them time, but whose call is it to continue rotating in a situation where a group looks like it's dominating the game? Are you making that call? Is Joe Judge making that call? Is Dave, the O-line coach, making that call? Like, how does that decision happen? And do you agree with moving guys out of there if they're kicking the other team's butt?
Yeah, I think with any of the personnel stuff, it's all a collaborative effort. Obviously, Joe has the final say on all the personnel stuff, who's on our team, who plays, and how much they play. But we have good conversations throughout the week as to what the plan is going to be, what the plan is going to be going into the ball game, and what it's going to be, throughout the game. And that applies to the offensive line. It applies to the tight ends, the receivers, the backs, in some cases the quarterback. So we try to have a plan, and we adjust if we need to as the game goes on. I do think it's helped us. We've got a lot of young players on the offensive line getting a lot of valuable snaps. I think that's helped their growth and development.
Jordan.
Hey, Jason, how you doing? I'm wondering, how much do you think your running game, did you shift your running game? Obviously, you had Saquon earlier. It seemed like you were running more outside zone, and then as you kind of moved along here, you realized, okay, we're going to run a lot more gap, a lot more power kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we've tried to do is again, you try to attack different ways. It starts with run and pass, and then you try to do a variety of things within each of those. You want to be able to run the ball different ways in this league. And, the defenses are too good. The coordinators are too good on the other side. You can't just do one thing. Nobody's that dominant. So we try to have some variety. You mentioned the zone game. We've done some of that. We've done gap stuff. You try to get perimeter and misdirection game going in your run game. So all that stuff is important. And again, it's due to the respect we have for the guys on the other side, the players and the coaches.
So is it more based on what you're seeing from the opposing team, or is the shift more, you think, because of the personnel you kind of had to change to it?
I think it's probably always a combination. The personnel you have is where it starts. There's no question about that. You try to play to your players' strengths. You try to limit their weaknesses, if you will. And so you're always trying to define what those things are. But we feel like we have a capable group on offense who can do different things in the running game. And, again, we try to attack different ways.
Last one here, Lombardo.
Hey, Jason, how's it going, man?
Great. How are you doing?
Good. Hey, I'm curious, how close is Daniel, in your opinion, to getting back on the field? And if he can't go, do you have 2 separate game plans, a Colt game plan and a Daniel Jones game plan, or is it just going in business as usual?
Yeah, it's a good question. We're in the midst of those discussions, and, we had kind of a jog-through type practice yesterday, and Daniel worked out afterwards, and he looked good. He looked good moving around. We just have to continue to evaluate his situation as the week goes on, not unlike any other position you have. So hopefully he can do some more work in practice today, and then we'll make our assessment afterwards. And, we feel like Colt is capable of doing whatever we ask our quarterbacks to do. So I don't think the game plan changes dramatically from a mental standpoint or a physical standpoint. Obviously, you customize things. Again, you try to play to your players' strengths and limit their weaknesses. But in terms of capability, we feel like each of those guys is capable to do whatever we ask them to do. You might customize it a little bit for each of them to do what they do best.